Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Freedom Thinking Community Group. The date is, according to my lovely new watch given to me by Crystal here, is Monday the 8th of September. What the hell? What's going on? Timelessness is upon us, and the days are flying by. Welcome, everyone. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody who's watching this in catch up. We hope you like these videos. We're going to keep making them as best we can every Monday. I know we've had a couple of weeks off previous to last week. We've been full on, been away, had intensives, retreats, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, we couldn't make it the last 3 weeks before last week, but hopefully everybody got caught up with last week. It was a beautiful event, wasn't it? In Coniston, got some nods. Yeah, just want to say thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for being interested. Thank you for coming. We hope you enjoy these videos. We hope that you enjoy these community groups. They're open to anyone. If you know of anybody who would be interested in coming, please just get them to drop us an email, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. We do these via donation. So we do them via donation because it's how we think, what we think is a nice thing to do. If you enjoy these, if you benefit from them, if they help you in any way, perhaps you could consider making a donation. The donation details are in the description below this video. Donations are great. Donate what you think, what you can afford. Helps Jen and I keep going. Hopefully Jen will be joining me. She's just putting Lucy to bed. See how that goes. It's 10 o'clock the other night. But yeah, helps us keep going and producing these videos, doing our work, putting food on the table, etc., etc. If you'll be interested in coming to work with us, then please get in touch. info@freedomthinking.co.uk. We've possibly got another retreat coming up in Norwich, East Anglia, and we might have a day event coming up in Essex, probably in October. So I will keep people informed about that. All right. Please. Oh, hell. Could you also please like, subscribe, comment, and share? Please. It's really, really useful. It's good for the algorithms. If you hate us, tell us. If you're enjoying this, tell us. If you're gaining insight, please tell us. Just let us know. Just comment, because the more you comment, the more it's better for us, apparently. I don't know. I don't understand these things. I just know that that's what you're supposed to do. If you can. All right. I haven't really got anything to talk about, but that's Crystal's just been with us today. And Crystal said, you always say you've got nothing to talk about, but you always seem to talk about something. And Jenny said, yeah, it's because he loves the sound of his own voice. And yeah, she's probably got a point. But it's only because she's never here. I'd love it if Jen's voice was here a bit more. Hopefully tonight. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But we are parents to a 3-year-old, and as any parent to a 3-year-old will know, you haven't got a frigging clue what's coming next. So hopefully she'll be asleep. But however, I've got a spectacular woman on tonight. A lady who came and worked with us. Good friend. And I thought it might be nice for people to just hear a little bit from Crystal. Just about how she found change. Because quite often it can be easy for us to turn this principles thing into a thing, to thing it up. But I can't stress the point enough. The thing that we're really looking for, we don't actually know what it is. We really don't. If you think you know what you're looking for, we ask, please consider just parking it, just putting it to one side. If it was that you think you know what you're looking for, if that was the answer, wouldn't you already have found what you were looking for? Wouldn't you already be what you were hoping to be. Well, if that hasn't happened, then perhaps it might be worth just putting that down and understanding that that could actually be getting in the way. So I would, what's that U2 song, Wend?
I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Can you sing it? Go on.
And I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Anyway, thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Bono. Beautiful. Gratitude to Bono.
Yeah, thanks, Bono. Thanks, Wend. If Bono ever needs a stand-in. Crystal,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to give a little bit of background? You don't have to go mental. You can just say whatever you want.
Yeah.
How did we meet?
So we met because well, I know your sister.
You do.
And we were out running one day, and I was chatting to her, telling her that I'd been struggling with a few things, and I'd had some time off, signed off from work, and then she mentioned that she told me a little bit about what you and Jen do, and suggested that I got in touch with you, because that's what I did. And then I came to work with you for 4 days in March, I think it was.
Yeah.
This year's flown. It's really
It's insane how quickly
hard to remember when things were, but yeah, it was March, wasn't it? And I came and did the 4 days, and I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have any expectations. There was some things that I wanted to work through. Well, I'd been diagnosed with depression and anxiety and an eating disorder, so they were obviously things that were going on. And I was on medication, and I was seeing a therapist doing EMDR work, which I'm not sure. I went sensitization therapy, which is really intense. But nothing seemed to be working to get me out of the cycle with the eating disorder. Mainly, that was the main thing. So when I was speaking to Lisa about it, that's when she suggested that I try coming to work with you guys. So I really wanted to get on top, get rid of those things. That's how I was coming into it, wasn't it? And then when we did the 4 days, it was like I had a massive change when I was working with you. On those 4 days, I mean, because what you and Jen were telling me, it all made sense intellectually, and I was listening to what you were saying, and I recognised with the depression that looking in the past wasn't the answer. And I knew, well, after the 4 days, I didn't go back to therapy and managed straight away to come off the medication that I was on, which is obviously huge, massive change, just by realising that it just made so much sense that the more I was trying to work out why I was having issues now, by looking at things that happened 10, 20, 30 years ago, it just didn't make sense, because that completely made sense to me, that I was keeping those thoughts alive by revisiting them all the time, especially on a weekly basis in therapy. So that was a huge shift initially. But then I was still had the eating disorder and just couldn't seem to apply that in the same way. And I couldn't really recognize the shift that I'd had after the 4 days, because I just wanted to get rid of the eating disorder.
Just one sec, love. If you can hear us, I think, is it Crystal, or is it one sec, love? You just froze just then.
Oh, sorry.
I think, no, it's not your fault. I think what you were saying was you couldn't really notice the shift that you'd had because you had the kind of the eating disorder in your sight.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I couldn't really appreciate the shift that I had had. And came to went to the conference, and again I was hearing it. It all made sense, but there was just wasn't. What I kept on saying to you, I'm just not getting it. I'm just not getting it. And of course you were saying it's not anything to get. And then so the conference was end of June, I think, wasn't it? And then the eating disorder was still really, it was still really, really bad. And then I went to Italy in July, and when I went there, I wasn't in the greatest of headspaces. I was just all cut up, worrying about going. I was supposed to be doing a race, but I was injured, and just a lot of noise in my head about that. And I'd gone out with a friend on the Saturday, and we'd had a lovely day, but still, it was still really noisy. So then on the Sunday, I had to get out of the apartment because my friend wanted to have a nap because she had done the race. And I was a bit of a loose end, sorry, because it's not that much to do if you're not up the mountains in Cormier. So I went for a walk, and anyway, there's this church in the square that I just decided to go into because I hadn't done that in the other times that I'd been there. And it was just, I think in hindsight, it was just sort of like the atmosphere of that quietness, that quiet space. I was on my own, no pressure, and I just sat there, and I can't really explain it, but I just had this realization, like I could feel the truth of what what we've talked about, and what I'd heard in the conference. And it was just almost like, I can only describe it a bit like as a penny dropping. It was just, oh, and I can't explain why or what it was, but that's just, I just all of a sudden was sat there and just realized that it was just the truth, and there was no more thinking about it, no trying to intellectualize what it was that you were saying. It was just that's just where it was. And I came out, and I've obviously felt like I felt something shifted, and felt just different. It just felt quieter in my mind. And then a couple of days later, when I was back in work, just walking back from the post office, and just this thought popped into my head that just a realization really that I really believed that I wasn't my thoughts. It was just me. The inside bit isn't what I'm thinking, but it was the truth. It wasn't just words, someone telling me that was the case. It was like, again, like that's what you were saying. That's what everyone was saying. And it was just a no, like a knowledge. And since Italy, I haven't had the problem with the eating disorder like at all. And it's been 9 weeks, and it's just completely gone. I haven't all of a sudden gone into a stage of feeling super confident or anything like that. And I still have wobbles, but it's just not the same. It's not the same thinking, and I can pick myself up on it. Like, I get caught up in, I was saying to you today that I've been going around a bit with some thoughts and stuff, but I know that that's what they are. And that's the difference, I think, is that I'm picking it up. I'm like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm telling myself this story again. Or me thinking this doesn't mean that I've lost what I know, or that I'm going backwards, or that it's going to start again. It's sort of just, okay, so it's just a thought. That doesn't actually mean anything. And it's just, I just changed my life, basically. That this 9 weeks has just been, I'm gonna get all emotional now. So can I stop?
And stop. Thank you, love. Thank you for sharing that. Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yeah.
I often ask this, like, because we share this with a lot of people and we see people change. And people come, you said you came with your expectations. Of course you did. That's why people come. They have a hope, they have a desire. They obviously wouldn't come if they didn't believe that something else was possible for them. They wouldn't come if they didn't believe that. So deep down inside ourselves, we know that there are other possibilities available to ourselves. We know that. So it's natural that you'd come here with an expectation. But again, I just want to ask this question because I love asking this question. What you found, was it what you thought you were searching for? The thing that set you free, was it what you thought you were searching for? That would be
No.
No. Can you talk a little bit about that experience? Understanding, and I want to make this clear for everybody. This is Crystal's experience. One of the conversations Crystal and I kept on having was she kept saying, I'm not going to be happy, Dave, till I've had your experience. And I kept saying, you can't have my experience. It's my experience. You can't have my experience. It was my experience. You can only have Crystal's experience. I remember my mum was really struggling, like, oh, I need to see it like Dave sees it. I need to see it like Dave sees it. And one day she was walking around the fell, walking Pebble, her dog, and she just had this realization. She said, I'll never see it like Dave see it. I'll have to see it the way I see it. And she came bouncing down. She was full of beans and she was like, oh, I can't see it like you. Bang, that was it. My mum just opened up. And she stopped trying to compare herself to other people and she just allowed herself to have her own experience. Could you talk a little bit about your experience from what you can remember, love?
From the experience in Italy.
In the church, yeah.
Yeah, I sat at the back of the church and it was empty apart from this one family. Just sat a couple of pews in front of me. And I was I'm not I certainly wouldn't describe I certainly wouldn't describe myself as religious in any sense. I'd gone into the church because I hadn't been in and wanted somewhere quiet to sit. But I was sat there looking at the usual. They always have Jesus on the cross, don't they, on the altar? And I was sat there, and all I can say is I was just looking at him, and I just knew, that what the basic principles, I suppose, of what he was probably sharing back when he was alive was just the truth. And what you and Jen have been just saying was just the truth, and it was all the same. But I just knew that, like, so clear. And I'd sort of just before that, I think it would have been that I sort of asked out in my head, but just asked if I could please just get some relief from the eating disorder and what I was doing to myself. And when I just can't remember what order it came in, but I definitely did that. And then I definitely at some point had this knowledge that it was the way it's been described is just all true with it's the thought, and I just burst out crying in the church. And then I was trying to hide. Like, it's really hard to explain exactly what happened. I'm not really sure. I just know. But I just knew 100%. And I still know now, even though thoughts come and go since then, I just still know that is the absolute truth. And that it wasn't wasn't me. It wasn't me. It's not that I was, that that the eating disorder was mine. It was just something that I was doing, and it was completely separate. And then when I'd composed when I'd kind of stopped crying, I wasn't really crying because I was sad either. I was just crying because it was like almost a relief that knowledge had come. And I just remember feeling really peaceful after that, just really really nice. And then it was really cool because when I left and walked out and up the street a little bit, there was this older Italian guy just busking, just singing the song Hallelujah, but in Italian, obviously. And it was just fit the moment so perfectly. And again, burst out crying. So there's a lot of tears. There's been a lot of tears since, but good tears, not sad tears. Just relief and really grateful, I guess. Sorry, I don't think that explained it very well, but it's really, really hard. I can't really say exactly what happened, but I just know that that's where I was and that's what I was thinking. And then that's the the knowledge and the realization that I had.
It is interesting because when people do have shifts, more often than not, they can't articulate it, what actually took place. They kind of tell a story about it, because the actual shift itself is something you can't make sense of, because it doesn't come from the intellect. The intellect is the mechanism by which we make sense of things. But it comes from beyond the intellect. The intellect, when you had your experience, was, it wasn't something you already knew. It wasn't something you kind of figured out. It was just a spontaneous experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and then we try and articulate it and put a story to it and just try and convey the message in as best way as we possibly can. And so, no, you did a wonderful job there, love. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, I didn't think it into being. It just came. It did just come.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. And we were talking because we went through a Booths, our local supermarket this afternoon, and you and I were talking about it, and we were kind of having a conversation about why is it that you're ready when you're ready? What's that all about? Why is it shows up when you're ready? And it has to show up when you're ready because it couldn't show up at any other point. It only shows up when you're ready. And it's like, when is ready? When's ready for one person? When's ready for the next? And you think you're ready, but obviously you're clearly not. And
yeah, I thought I was so ready, and I was trying to. Well, the amount of times I was like, why isn't it happening? Why isn't it happening? And probably most people have heard you say in the story where you saw, was it the crow?
The jackdaw, yeah.
And I was saying to the couple on retreat when we were talking about that afterwards, and like you said, that I just wanted your experience, and I'd be walking my dog and looking at these cows and give me the experience. Why isn't the cows making me relax? I know.
Come on, cow.
Yeah, come on, cow, give me the insight. But
Sacred cow.
yeah, didn't work.
You're Indian now. Right.
Spoiler, it doesn't work.
No, it's when we're ready. And the only thing that makes sense to me is the soul wasn't done. The soul wasn't done with that experience yet. Ultimately, the only thing that's ever experiencing creating is the soul. The story of Crystal, of Dave, of Wend, of Louise, whoever, it's like, that's a story of the mind. That's a creation of the mind. That's an identity. That's what creates our illusion that we're not God. That's what creates an illusion that we're something other than soul. We say my soul as though we own it. No, you are soul. Pardon me. That sounds terrible. But God, how do you say this without sounding like saying arsehole? We are soul. We are soul. That's who and what we fundamentally are. That's soul first. creation secondary. But we've got into the habit of putting, or perhaps it's through ignorance, perhaps it's through misunderstanding, we've started putting the secondary first. Why aren't I getting it? No, you are it. You are it. You know, the soul is the only thing that's ever experiencing. So it seems to me the soul is the thing that's making the decisions ultimately, because there's nothing else creating. The ego can't create. It's the ego's a creation. It's the soul that has the power. It's the soul that creates the identity. It's the soul that creates the experience. It's the soul that makes the decisions. It's the ultimate infinite creative mind, essence of all things. So the only thing that makes sense to me is that soul wasn't finished with the experience. It had still had something to experience from it. And once it had decided, right, cool, let's get Crystal in that little church where she can sit quietly. You know, and for whatever reason, people hear what they hear when they hear it. They see things when they see things. And I feel like one of the greatest stumbling blocks to seeing is thinking you need to see it. It seems like, and how do you stop yourself from doing that when you're having a hard time? You know, it's a natural thing for us all to do. We all just want to have a nicer life. That's why you're on this call. That's why people are on this call. That's why people are watching this video. That's why I do these videos. It's like, we all just want to have a nicer life. But we're all trying to change life without understanding the mechanics of it. So we're walking around on this landscape with a map that's completely back to front, a compass that points north, south. You know, it's like we've been walking around looking at in all the wrong directions for this peace and happiness, and we find it when we stop searching. We find ourselves, oh, I'm here and now. That's where I am. And I love the way you spoke about how, you know, all of a sudden the words of Jesus start to make sense. That's what happened to me. It's like suddenly those words of belief, this nice thing that you believe in, suddenly become alive with truth. And you're like, whoa, what else is available? What else is available? So with what you've discovered, love, what have been the implications since you sat in that church in Italy? What have the implications been?
Just like everything's changed. By that I don't mean like that I'm like walking around like deliriously happy every minute. Obviously I'm still just living life and experiencing life's ups and downs, but it's just it's almost probably easier for you to say, knowing how I was before, what's changed. But just I'm just not getting caught up in my story, my narrative. I mean, like I said, the eating disorder's gone. That like it just doesn't exist now. But not just that. It's like I'm not actively. Before, if I had breaks in it, you know, some like breaks of relief during it, it was more like actively. I saying you like. It was like me thinking, don't do it. And that was how I was getting break periods of time where it wasn't happening. Whereas now it's not like that at all. And it very rarely crosses my mind. I'm not saying it never, ever crosses my mind, but I know I acknowledge it for what it is in the moment. It's just the thought, and it's the same sort of thought as any other thought. It hasn't got more power than any other thought. And also I try and give myself a little bit of a break because it's a thought that I've had for a long time, and it's just an old story still cropping. You know, it hasn't just completely disappeared. It just hasn't got the power that it had, because now I know that it doesn't mean anything, and it's like it just doesn't get the same grip. It's like oh, there it is, and then it's gone, rather than it's got me in a tight grip, and that's the only thing I can possibly do to get any relief from it. Now I just acknowledge it. It's just an old story. But also I just think that I'm just giving myself a bit more of a break. Just in all sorts of ways, like just not getting caught up in my own perfectionism that I apply to everything, and just giving myself a bit more of a break. Not always, but definitely more often. It's been huge. Like I said, after the 4 days working with you and Jen, it was still a huge difference to be able to just not go back to therapy and to get straight off taking the meds straight away was huge as it was. But now this, like, it's been completely life-changing. I've got a running coach, and after that 4 days I worked with you, I had a call with him like 2 days later, I think. And he said it was like talking to a completely different person, because before I used to talk like I apologized for existing, and it was just completely different. So I guess the change is more noticeable in other people.
Yeah. There's a big thing about personal development, working on yourself. How much working on yourself did you do
Before?
Oh yeah, before and what you found. Yeah, the contrast. Let's have the contrast, if there is a contrast.
Yeah, there's a huge contrast. I'm going to stop working on myself before. Now I don't have to give all. Don't get me wrong. Like, obviously, you can always learn things. I don't mean like that, but I just mean I was constantly looking for something, the thing that was going to make the difference. The book, or the podcast, or the type of therapy, or etc., 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 to stop me feeling the way that I was feeling. Whereas now I don't have to do any of that searching, because I know that I've got the power. It's me. It's within me. I can do that.
It always was.
Always was. Yeah.
Always is. Always was. There's nobody on earth it doesn't apply to.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely true.
That's definitely true.
Yeah. If I can do it.
That's what I say. If it can happen for me, it can happen for anyone.
Especially my overthinking it and trying to make it happen. It can still happen. When I left it alone in the end.
Yeah. Nice. I remember having a conversation with Jen, and I think I mentioned this last week. I mentioned it to somebody, but about Buddha. I said Buddha meditated his way to enlightenment, didn't he? And Jen said, no, he didn't. No, he meditated. It was when he stopped doing his meditation and stopped the search, he found what he was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, love. Thank you so much for sharing that. Really, really appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions? Any comments or reflections? Lise?
I'd like you to speak about habitual thinking and old stories.
Who?
You.
Me. I'd like to hear from Crystal.
Yeah, it was interesting what Crystal was saying.
Yeah. Crystal, would you know, you've clearly somebody who's just spoke about, you've got these habitual thoughts and your long-standing thoughts and stuff like that. Like, have you got any like reflections upon that? And I've just totally chucked you in the spotlight. If you don't, not a problem.
I think just that that they haven't gone away. I still have the habitual thoughts, sometimes more than once a day. But for me, I just yeah, they just don't, if I acknowledge them for that's what they are, they don't have the same hold like they would before. Where I believe before, I guess I would believe them, basically. Just would be beating they would get, and then once you're in that headspace, I think once you've got that negative thinking, or once you're having that negative thought, it only then takes that to take a hold, and then your brain spirals, because then you think more and you think more, and then there's more stories you can pull in to validate or to make it more true in your head what the thoughts are saying. It's like, oh, you're a terrible person, I can't do this, or I'm doing this behavior to myself, and this obviously proves that I'm rubbish and got no, just negativity. And the more you go down that rabbit hole, almost, it's the bigger it gets, and the more stories that come out. Whereas I think now I can have the feeling, and sometimes I'm still caught up in it. For, it's not like immediate. It's not like I have the thought and I'm just like, oh, it's just a thought and it just goes. It's not like that at all. But I guess I just can recognize it as not truth.
Not truth.
I think that's the key. That's the simplest way of saying it. Is I can have the thought, I can have many thoughts, but I can still look at them and think it's not true.
That was beautifully articulated. That, yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that not truth? I like that statement. That was, and the way you said it, you said that with such certainty, and I know that you know what you're talking about there. When you say I know it's not truth. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, I'll try. Just that I know me, the me. I don't know how to say that, but I just mean the me, the inside bit, the me is separate from what my thoughts are, and I know that that's true. So if my thoughts are saying that I'm fat, or I'm slow, or I'm a horrible person, and I just know that that's not. I know that that's not true, because they're just thoughts. They're just stories that I'm saying about myself, and they can seem really powerful. But I know that the me that makes me me isn't that at all. And I know that the outside, even, I can even say this with certainty now, is that I know that the outside bit that everyone sees still isn't me. It's just the outward facing bit. I still know that whatever that looked like, it's still not me, and I know that that's true. And then that helps with the thoughts, because I know that they're just the stories that I'm creating.
I think that you just articulated there, Crystal, is the most important message for mankind all over the planet, everywhere, anyone. I often say I don't know the principles. I don't know what I'm talking about. I hear Crystal saying the me. It's like, how else do I describe this? I just hope you understand when I say the me, the bit before the thoughts, the bit that's always present, the bit that experiences, the bit that lives. The thing that really sets people free is that realization. It's not that those words, it's just a thought. They become a tool before the realization. They become a tool. They become a thing that we think, this is an application of something. We need to do something. We need to work on this. I need to perfect this technique of it's just a thought. which then becomes a really, really challenging thing, because maybe once or twice somebody will go, oh yeah, I can see that. And then they'll get lost in the story. But when there is an enlightening experience, a revelation, a noticing, what did you call it, Christy? You called it something different. A realization, I think you said. Yeah, when there's a realization, you know, there's something that takes place within our being where there is this awakening. There's this awakening, and this awakening awakens us to a hidden aspect of ourself that we were unaware of before. When we're listening to these conversations, really that's what we're looking for. We're really looking to discover the hidden aspect of ourself that brings this unity, this wholeness. The wholeness is always there. The unity is always there. You can't exist without the unity. The ego can't exist without the soul. It can't. And the human being can't really exist without the ego. It is a separate experience. It's the experience of separation. It's the experience of being a unique expression of source. You know, so it's part of the game. It's part of the game of life. It's not a thing that is an enemy or anything like that. But it's when we start to, when the ego gets a little bit lopsided in our experience, we suffer a great deal. You know, you're never broken, and you're still not broken, even in the deepest suffering. You're not broken. You're still entirely soul creating an experience through what looks like to be a separate being, an individual self, and a creator. But it's in the discovery of that other aspect of ourself. You know, this is something that has been pointed to and pointed to and pointed to for millennia. People trying to wake people up to the other aspect of themselves. Did you know you're not just your story? Did you know that there's this other part you can't see with your intellect? It's something that has to be discovered. You know, and when people discover it, they find this wholeness within themselves, and all of a sudden, all the pennies drop into place. You're like, oh, yeah, I get it. Ah, now I get it. Right, now I get it. Now I get it. God, right, okay. Oh, I get it. I was never broke. I've never been broken. If I was broken, how could I be whole now? It's like, you know, and you start to see your little stories start to unravel, and the more they start to unravel, the more the peace becomes just like a backdrop. Even in the suffering, there's this kind of, I love the way you articulated that, you know, I still have my highs and my lows. And like Jen says, that Dr. Roger Mills, who introduced Jen to the principles, would say, it's too late for you now. You take your awareness with you. You take your knowing with you. So no matter where you go in consciousness, high, low, whatever you want to call it, ups, downs in life, you take that knowing with you, and nobody will ever take it away from you. They can't take it away from you. You can temporarily forget, but once you've seen, you know. I love that, Crystal. Thank you so much for sharing. Wendy, your hand's up.
Sorry. Yes, Crystal, thank you so much for really shining a light on this, and on how this experience is literally from the inside out. It's a realization. It's an aha. And I've never thought about this before. I've been in this conversation for years, and I've never thought about this before. But for anybody that's fallen in love with a person, fallen in love with a, you know, hobby, fallen in love with a vacation spot where you just go, oh my gosh. And all of a sudden, for me, my husband was the guy, and every other guy had no, it wasn't an interest in them. It was just like, oh, I recognize. As a matter of fact, I remember when I first met him, I said, you're my husband. I see what you look like now. I can see your eyes and now I know what you look like, but I recognize you as my husband, my partner, as my person. And so any other man that I might have turned my head and looked at the grocery store or whatever held no interest anymore. It was like, oh, I got it. I'm all set. Thanks. And like, it doesn't even have to be a person. It can be, like I say, you go, oh my gosh, I finally found it. I know that every vacation needs to be in the Lakes region of the United Kingdom for whatever. I thought I liked the south coast of Massachusetts, but I was wrong. Or it's clear to me now, whatever. A hobby, like, wow, this crocheting thing, this really is wonderful, and I can't wait to dig in on it. And everything else I've ever tried, calligraphy or painting or growing a garden, it never really fit, but this, I just did it once and it just clicked. I think we've all had that experience in some way where something just emerges and arises as got it. And that is what this conversation is pointing to. And as Roger Mills said to Jenny, you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
Nice, Wend. Thank you, love. I picked on Crystal tonight and asked her to share a little bit about her experience. Yeah. Cool. Lise, I know we probably didn't answer your question in a way that perhaps you were wanting us to go into depth about overthinking.
Well, yeah, no, that was really interesting what Crystal said, but yeah, yeah, I just thought if you have a space and to talk about, I'd like to hear what you think about old habitual thinking.
What context do you mean it in?
Well, I seem to get very stuck in old habitual thinking, old stories that seem to be very true, and kind of like a stuck record.
I think they say that most of the thoughts that we have today, we had yesterday, like we are habitual creatures. I think the gift in the principles is you stop paying attention so much to the content. And then it feels like the more that we do that, the unhelpful stuff drops away a bit more and we get fresh new things. So, you can't put fresh wine in a stale wine, you need to pour some. Dogs in the background. But I think what we tend to do is we'll say, I've got this habitual thinking, and then we want to do something with it. We find it very hard just to leave ourselves alone. I think the gift for me has been, I still have loads of the same kind of thinking that I used to have, but because I don't take it seriously, it's transient and new stuff comes through, and a bit like Crystal said, like I don't believe it in the same way. I think really when we believe it and breathe life into it, that's when it becomes a problem, because we then act out of it. When you kind of see it for what it is, we breathe less life into it and it passes quicker. But yeah, I think we're just seem to be doing beings at the moment. We want to do something, but we all have habitual thinking. We all have thinking that we find helpful and unhelpful. But I feel like it's just you leave yourself alone. Leave yourself alone, you're all right. But I think as soon as we get caught up in thought that we don't like, we want to do something with it and change it and fight it, and it keeps it alive longer. And I think there's some kind of surrender that happens at some point. It happens to all of us, even people that think they're overthinkers. At some point we surrender and something changes, even if it's just for a moment. And I think I found a lot of gratitude for the moments when it quietens, and I'm not caught up anymore. Whereas I only ever used to focus on when I was caught up. So even when I wasn't caught up, I'd be thinking I'd been caught up and judging myself. Whereas now I feel like I've found more gratitude in the peaceful times, and I don't really give the negative times so much thought.
When they've gone, they've gone.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Because it is that, isn't it? It's like, I was at a retreat with Jen, one of Jen's retreats, and this lady, I've mentioned this before, another community group, but I was with this lady walking down she asked to talk about anger. She said, I want to talk to you about anger, Dave, because you obviously understand. You're somebody who's experienced a lot of anger. I was like,
Because you've said you're very good at it.
I'm very good at it. I'm very good at it. Yeah, and we went for this walk, and she was telling me all about this outburst. She said, Dave, I just properly lost my shit. She said, I was horrible. I just can't stand myself. She said, Dave, I just want this anger to leave me alone. I just want it to leave me. I'm done with it. And we carried on walking, and walking down this little lane, oak trees about, summer's afternoon, and beautiful day. I just said to her, I said, do you mind me asking? I said, when exactly are you talking about? I said, no, how do you feel right now? Because stop you. How do you feel right now? She said, I feel pretty calm right now. I said, all right. I said, so when exactly was this that you really lost your shit? She said, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. So you've come for a walk with me because you want the anger to leave you alone. And you're talking about something that happened 2 weeks ago. The anger left you alone 2 weeks ago. It left you. Is there any more? That was said. Can you remember?
I thought you said she was just going, I just want this rage to leave me.
Yeah, I just wanted rage to leave me. I said it left you 2 weeks ago.
But she had a massive insight that moment.
Yeah.
That she'd been keeping it alive.
But she'd been keeping it alive. Just keeping the same old story alive. Right. It finished 2 weeks ago, and what she'd done about it, she just thought it over and over and over and over again, ruminated upon it. Turned 2 weeks ago into 2 weeks of suffering. The rage had left her. The experience had finished. She kept it alive in her own mind and saw it as an obstacle, saw it as a thing, as opposed to a thought. It clearly, if it finished 2 weeks prior, what was she truly experiencing from that 2 weeks onwards, up until that point we were walking down that lane in the sunlight? You know, what was she actually experiencing? And it seems like that with a lot of us, you know, we just keep believing our own creations. We keep believing what we've created is the truth. And I love what Crystal said. You know, she can have these thoughts crop up, but once she's become aware, like not just seeing it from an intellectual perspective of, and please don't get caught up in the intellect. Please don't get caught up in this, oh, I see this intellectually and I don't. So forget that, because that's just a bullshit story that keeps you trapped. Okay, let that go. Let that identity, because that's just an identity. That's a false identity that's been created at that point. I am the person who sees it through only sees this intellectually. No, that's a thought construct. That's not the truth either. Okay, that's no more true than any other reality. But it will be a reality that you will experience if you believe it. So it's like, when it's truly seen for what it is, then, you know, you can have all kinds of thoughts, but they don't have you. You know, you become far more discerning with your own mind. You have far more option. You've noticed you have far more option how you respond to people. You start to exercise your own free will. You get to learn quicker. I think that's another observation I find. You get to learn quicker. I'm a slow frigging learner, but thankfully I've started to learn quicker. Like, oh, if I go down this kind of route, this well-worn path of X, Y, or Z, I know what the consequences are of that. They generally don't work out very well. We'll probably end up in a bit of an argument, you know, or hell might break loose. Perhaps I might exercise my gift of free will of being able to have another thought. Let's think again. What else could I possibly do? I know I really feel compelled to respond like this right now. But you know what the consequences are of that. Perhaps I might try another tack. You know, you get to think again. You get to use your mind in a far more creative way. You get to use your creative capacity. You get to create new realities for yourself. And in doing so, you help create it for the world.
I wanted to add as well to what we were saying before, that the more that you see this for yourself, you stop holding other people to their version of themselves or what they said. And I think when you start to see how your own mind can change and be fluid, and something can look so real, and you get caught up, and then, like we always say, when you calm down, like when we calm down, when we settle down, we're clearer thinking, we have more sense, we're wiser. But we so often hold people to things that they say when they're not in a good space or in an argument. And I think this is really, when you see it for yourself, you can start to see it in other people and not hold them to moments in time and judge them and allow them just to change their mood. Like we often say, like with Lucia, it's very easy because her mood changes so quickly. So you can't hold her to one, because you think she's in a fantastic mood, but then suddenly she could be irate about something, and then suddenly she's upset about something, and then suddenly she's fine again. And then, so if you try to hold her to any of those things, she's just not, she's just fluid. But I think as we get older, we hold our partners, our friends, work colleagues, whatever, to a version of themselves. And I think in each moment we are actually a new version of ourselves. Even if it seems like habitual thinking, it's a new moment, it's never happened before. So I think you keep allowing yourself and other people to be fluid, and that's helpful in relationships, in everything.
In everything, isn't it? Like in work, if you can be fluid as opposed to solid, you know, in all of life, call it flow. You know, it's life has to be easier. The thing is about fluidity, you're present. If you solidified yourself in terms of I know who I am, I know who they are, you're actually not present. You're actually holding people in yourself to the past. You're actually living in the past. There's an arrogance to that. There's a real arrogance. It's an innocent arrogance. But it's this idea that I know who they are. I know what they're like. And the moment you do that, you stop listening.
And the same for yourself.
Same for yourself.
I know who I am. I know what I'm like.
That's right. That's right.
I used to say I'm always anxious when I go into busy places. I'm always anxious at parties. I'm just always like that. And I told that story for so long. And then after coming across the principles, I just didn't have so much thinking about going to one of my sister's friends' parties, and I just had a really nice time. And I remember afterwards just thinking, oh wow, I was in a busy place, and there was quite a lot of drug use and alcohol and stuff at the time, and I wasn't drinking or taking drugs, but I had a really nice time, and I wasn't uncomfortable, and I didn't, all the things I normally said I always feel like that, I didn't. And it was just like and that's the thing I often encourage people to do, is start to notice all the times you show up differently, not the usual version of you. And if you don't show up in the way that you think that's who you are, then it's like proof, oh, that can't be who I am. Because if something's who we are, then we'll always be like that. And I think that's the nice thing about the principles, is it's a rule. There's no exceptions to it. It's taking you back to, like you say, first principles. And I think that's a nice a nice place to be. Of like, wow, this moment is new and I'm not fixed. Anything I've thought before has gone. I don't know what I'm going to think next. Like, but there is just this moment. And I think that's where like genius, creativity, all those wonderful things exist. Presence.
Peace.
But I think it's like I couldn't sleep last night from about 10:30 till I think about, I don't know, I was awake a lot of the night, and I had a horrible feeling and loads of things running through my head, and then worrying about things. And it's just sometimes we have those times, and I think I didn't try and think about the 3 principles and getting out of it. I had an uncomfortable night, and then I must have fallen asleep at some point. I woke up, got ready, and the feeling has changed. And I think I used to then, if I'd had a night like that, then I would have thought that all the things I was thinking about were important and I needed to carry it into the day, and then I needed to do something with them. And sometimes there's things that need to be done, but I think you do get discerning with the feeling. Like when you're in that kind of feeling, I know not to take it seriously, and I wait for it to calm, and then I'm like, right, what do I need to do from this place? And that isn't always possible. Like sometimes I act out of a place because in the moment that's where I'm at, and I don't beat myself up. But I think you can see that there's the gift of this is we seem to beat ourselves up less. We move through things quicker. We allow other people to do the same. So you can see how it helps to create a more loving, compassionate, beautiful world that most people say they want to live in.
Mm.
But it starts with ourselves. Like how often do we go to war with ourselves? How often do we go to war with our partner?
Our own minds.
We had a great
our own
conversation with
feelings.
someone recently had said how much they want peace in the world, and they want a good world, and they want a loving world, and then something that they're doing to punish somebody else who they actually love. And it was such an you sort of pulled them up on it and said, hang on a minute, but you said you want to live in a more beautiful, peaceful, compassionate world, and actually what you're doing is punishing somebody that you love. That doesn't sound very compassionate. And you can see it's so easy to look outside and be like, oh, what they're doing is terrible, or they need to be more like that with them, and can't they be more understanding? But then in our own lives with people that we love, we can be at war or with ourselves. So it is nice to know that all of that noise and all of that story is just that, it's a story. And underneath it, there's something else that we can't put into words, that we touch upon. Like when Crystal was in the church, you touched upon a space that was you before all of the noise, and you've touched upon it countless times in your life. And I think we start to trust that place because we know it's true. And the other stuff carries on, but we don't take it as seriously.
It is fascinating. It's like we really do think we know what we're looking for. You know, I think I allowed myself to cry more after 2013. I cried a lot before 2013. But I allowed myself to feel. I think I really allowed myself to feel. If you'd asked me, I'd have, what do you need to do, Dave? Well, I need to delete certain experience. I need to delete my capacity for certain experience. That's what we all need to do. We need to delete this capacity for certain experience. These feelings, these thoughts, these behaviors, we need to delete it. I don't know about anybody else, but like Crystal spoke about, and I know I speak for you when I say this, none of my experiences got deleted. They got recognized. They got seen for what they are. Well, they didn't get deleted. And they never needed to be deleted. You know, in reality, it's what makes life whole. It's what brings contrast to our experience. And I don't know, the very experiences that I would have chosen to delete, I say this every freaking week, are my greatest gifts. I would have deleted the very things that are the most valuable learnings of my life so far. And I can't anticipate that that principle is going to come to an end, assuming I continue to live for a while. You know, so I don't know anybody who's come across this who has had an aspect of themselves deleted. I find I come across everybody I've ever come across still speaks about, you know, and we've done lots of work with the people who learned from Sid and stuff like that, and some of them haven't been overly humble about, I don't think, about being honest about when they enter into dark spaces. I know they do because they're human. And later on, I've actually seen them start to bring that into their conversation, which I think is essential. Otherwise, it creates this kind of idea that there are some people who have got what I haven't. No, nobody's got what you haven't. It's not the way it works. That's not the way God works. It's not the way an ocean works. No wave has something that any other wave doesn't have. You know, if your wave is, if the ocean is water, then every single wave is made of the same thing. It doesn't lack in any other thing that that wave has. It's entirely the same thing. And you know, so we've had the privilege of meeting many of these people, and you had the privilege of meeting Sid, and we had the privilege of meeting Dave Banks, Sid's brother, Sid's son, at a Shabbos meal round at Terry and Brian Rubenstein's. It's a beautiful night. And I'll never forget, Dave just said to us, he said, if I have to tell you about the most beautiful, loving, compassionate human being I've ever met in my life, he said, I'd have to tell you all about my mum. And he said, if I had to tell you about a man who was quick to temper, who could really kind of feel deeply, he said, but was the most present human being I've ever met. He said, I'd talk to you about my father. That would be Sid Banks. So I'd talk to you about my father. So Dave was saying there that, you know, Sid Banks hadn't deleted any aspects of himself. What he'd learnt to be was far more present in life, didn't hold himself to a version of himself. Sid had discovered he is not any of the versions like Crystal's describing. This isn't me. That's not me. I thought it was me. I'm mistaken identity, the ego. I thought that was me. And Sid had discovered that. But it wasn't that Sid didn't feel. It wasn't that Sid didn't think. It wasn't Sid didn't get caught up with stuff. He was a human being. He was a man. He didn't delete anything. He just gained a deeper respect. He just gained a deeper respect and a deeper understanding into the nature of life. It's unrealistic and it's a trap. The idea that we need to delete any aspects of ourselves. It's not a deletion that takes place. Crystal speaks about her eating disorder gone away, the behavior. Yeah. Thoughts and feelings still come. She mentioned that sometimes, a couple of times a day. But there's this discerning aspect that is now present within Crystal that's like, well, I know what's going on here. And whereas once she saw those thoughts and feelings as a big problem, all of a sudden They're suddenly seen, they're felt, they're experienced. And she's learnt that they disappear. They go. You know, if all people learnt was that the experience that they're in is going to go, the feelings they feel are going to pass. Got deep respect for a man right now who I've been speaking to lately. And he's demonstrating that to me. You know, where I in the past couldn't see that. This man's demonstrating it to me and his family. And I deeply respect him for it. He's aware that these feelings that come up, they move. It will change. I don't have to act on it. I can sit it out. You know, that's a man who's started to exercise his free will. It's beautiful.
I think when you're talking about your deep feelings, I think you can see it in a child that it's necessary. Like when we cry, they realize, you know, we release stress hormone. Like it's built into us to have all these feelings. And like Lucia feels things really deeply. Like she feels music, and she'll suddenly be brought to tears by music. I've never known a child so young actually just be so touched by music. And there's books that'll have a story in it, and then she'll start to get quite emotional about things. And like she does remind me of you. And I often say you're the most childlike adult I've ever met. But she is so much like you. But I feel like it's my
Only Madungarees.
I feel like it's our role, like as her parents, to not try and stop her having feelings. Like all feelings are allowed. And like sometimes I will say to her, like, you can feel like that, but let's go in the other room because no one else wants to listen to it. Because that, you know, that's being respectful. But I feel like I don't want her to ever feel like there's a wrong feeling. That she's not allowed to feel it, because I think it's, I don't know, I know that I've stuffed down so many feelings in my life that I don't think are allowed or I shouldn't have, and she doesn't do that yet. And I feel like I don't know, we naturally know that we're fluid and we're allowed to feel, and we feel deeply about things and it moves, but we learn at some point that it's not acceptable. So I learned that, you know, you shouldn't cry in front of people. That's not acceptable. And I remember being on a plane with you once and we watched a film called Lion, and you were just sobbing. We're on our way to Nepal and you were sobbing on this plane and like snot pouring out, and there's someone next to us.
Right.
No, but I just remember thinking, God, I've never felt, I don't even know if in private I've allowed myself to feel that deeply.
It's not everywhere.
Just to feel that deeply about something. There's been a judgment, there's been a holding back of feeling. Like I've been afraid to fully feel. And I think you and Lucia are great teachers to me of, you can fully feel something, and it can, like for Lucia, it's like the world like shattered, and then she's out of it within such a short space of time. And similar with you, you can literally have such upset or such anger, or and it comes and it goes. And it's been a great learning for me. Like I feel
It's
like
a roller coaster ride, isn't it?
but it's seeing somebody that's not afraid to feel. And I think we've become so afraid to feel as human beings, and we've made some good and some bad. And then I came across the principles, and I felt like I was on some kind of journey where if I kind of saw enough, I was going to avoid certain experiences. And it's been nice to just take that idea to fall away. Be like, no, you're probably going to experience more. And I always remember Dick and Bettinger saying to me, come across the principles, hold on to the seat of your pants. He said, it's a ride. You do start to really allow deep feeling. And that's what we're here to have. I feel like the depth of the beautiful feelings has grown through that, but also the allowing of other feelings. Like it's not bad, wrong, as judgment goes. And I think we see it in children, and we can be so understanding. How often are we that understanding with someone who's an adult who we think should know better?
Your partner. I was sat with Crystal in the kitchen this afternoon, and we were going to go pick some damsons. Lucia changed her mind. I don't want to pick damsons. I want to do this. I said, all right. I said to Crystal, just give it 5 minutes. We'll go and pick some damsons with her. And like 5 minutes later, she comes wandering through. Do you want to go pick some damsons? Yeah. Like, it's just beautiful.
She was busy.
She was busy. Adamant. Once did she cry about it?
She went mental.
She went
She
mental.
was in the middle of a game, and I said
That's
it was
right.
time to pick damsons, and she was
Yeah.
furious.
I was like, give it 5 minutes. We'll go and pick some damsons with her. And 5 minutes passed and she came wandering through. She's going to pick some damsons. Yeah. Great. Come on then. Fluidity. To enter the kingdom, you must become like the child. Does anybody else want to share anything? Anybody want to ask a question, reflection, take the conversation in a direction? I think one of the things I will say, just to Lisa's point, question, my apologies, is do you know what? I can't even remember what the hell I was going to say. It's just totally gone.
Just turn the
Okay.
video on.
Hi, Elise. Bear with me. See if it comes back.
To the visual thinking.
Yeah. No, I can't even think what I was going to say. Sorry, Elise.
It's going to be brilliant as well.
Oh,
isn't
it's just the answer.
I think it blows my mind every week.
It
and
might have been the answer
You're
to
the answer.
everything.
You're the answer. You're the answer. You're the answer. You're the answer. The answer won't come from us. The answer will not come from us. The answer comes from you. Crystal, am I right? Speak. People
She
can't
said
see. Yeah, no, she said yes. So, yeah, it's on speaker view.
That's
You're
just-
the answer.
It blows my mind when we do retreats and we do this weekly group. I'm in my 20th year, or I'm in my 21st year of being around this. It blows my mind how I can forget sometimes, and listening to people speak on groups, and the times when it feels so simple and you're like mind blown. Wow, life is so simple. Life is so easy. Like, this answers everything. This is amazing. And then you get caught up, and it blows my mind, but it's like it's life. And I think you just keep on learning, and
Keep on getting humble, don't you?
yeah,
You think,
through there.
yeah, you think you've got something licked, and life will humble you. Your judgment about somebody, life will humble you. Just stay humble. Just be humble in the first place. It's just so much easier. Arrogance trips us up. Thinking we know something just trips us up. Really, none of us know anything. Because really what we all are is God. Whatever that is, I don't know what God is. So from the very fabric of reality itself is this unknowable essence, singularity that appears apparently to make infinite expressions of itself and dance them all out like some puppet show. Never gets broken, it never gets damaged. It gets to play all these different parts all at once. That's what life really is. It's God experiencing itself. And when an individual has a realization and goes, oh, I'm not my creations, God remembers itself. God sees itself in that moment. That's why it can't articulate it, because it's an unknowable space. But it's a recognizable space. It's what everybody is. You know, it doesn't matter if we have the same thoughts over and over again. I have the same flavor of thoughts many times a day, many times a night. Then what? And what? And what? It's like, I'm all right. Like, here I am. And what?
You said you've been like mind blown over the last, I think it's like within the last year. You said you've had some thoughts come back to you that you just thought had never come back to you, and you're like, they seem so like, go on, go on, go on, and then you're like, oh no, I don't have to.
What was it?
I can't remember. You've just told me about it a few times.
Oh, old habits.
Yeah, like just the thoughts coming in, and you said you never thought they would come back and feel so
Yeah.
strong again, and it was quite humbling because you're like, wow, like,
Yeah.
and I think it feels like it does stop you judging as much.
I did it with cocaine.
I don't know about that one.
No, I had it with, it was weird. Like, I had it with cocaine. I used to, sorry, Mum. Mum sat on the bed here. I used to take a little bit of college every now and again. And sorry, Mum.
You said it before.
And it was really, I really enjoyed it.
I'm sure.
I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed it. And years later, I had this 10 days where I was like, go and buy some cocaine, go and buy some cocaine, go and buy some cocaine. It was like 10 days of this really intense. This was years later. I hadn't touched it for years. Stop growling, Lise.
I didn't realise I was unmuted, sorry.
Sorry for mentioning cocaine. Yeah, it was bizarre. It's like 10 days of this. Like, I remember I had to really just not go and buy cocaine. And then it left. It left. No, our minds do funny things. But the more you kind of become aware of the transient nature of it all, it's like you realize there's not actually anything to do. You know, you go to work on a thought. Let's go to work on a thought. Let's talk about going to work on a thought. All right. Let's talk about this logically. The moment you've thought it, you can't work on it. You can't work on a thought because it's immediately in the past. It no longer exists. You can't work on the past. You can only work on the now. So going to work on a thought is just living in the past. It's just living in an illusion. You can't fix a thought. You can't work on a thought because the moment you thought it's immediately in the past. That click's gone forever. We're never going to get that moment back. Whatever you're thinking now is now in the past for all eternity. It's gone. But we're trying to fix something that isn't fixable because it's not broken. You're trying to fix something that is immediately in the past. It's not something you can have access to. You don't have access to the past. You have access to the now. And the more we leave the past alone, the more we spend time in the present. And another thing that people often do, I mentioned this to a friend yesterday, he's not on here now, was he said, well, I can't because I know what it's going to be. I know it's going to be like. I know it's going to be like. I'm like, well, how do you know what it's going to be like? He said, well, the last few times I've done it, it's been like this. I said, don't overlay the past onto the future. If you overlay your past onto the future, you are going to continue to create the same old, same old, same old. That's why you live in Groundhog Day. But if you can understand that the future hasn't been created, it isn't created, you live in the now. Live in the now. The future will never be created. It will always be life in the now. It's like once you start to see the illusion of time, the future and the past, you spend more time in the present moment where life's really happening. You're more present with people, you're more present with what is. You stop overlaying the past onto the future so much. And in doing so, you free your life up to kind of experience new experiences. Apex. You get to experience new experiences and life becomes exciting. But many people say to me, it's nice you found something that worked for you, Dave. I've heard that from many different people. Well, it's really nice you found some, really pleased you found something that worked for you, Dave. No, this is, it's not my truth. It's universal truth, as Sid would call it. It's universal, it's applicable to all truth. Crystal was using the word truth a lot. It applies to everybody on earth. It's not something that works for me. It's the way it works for everybody. Our realities are created from energy, whatever energy is, whatever consciousness is. It's infinitely creative. And it's an experience. And we give words to the infinite creative awareness, mind, consciousness, thought. Infinite mind, creative thought, awareness, consciousness, infinite creative consciousness. That's who and what we actually are. Mind, consciousness, thought. That's it. That's the principles. Or another word you could use for the principles is me. I. My mum's Jack Russell's getting amorous behind the camera. I keep trying to tell my mum a good, to correct me if I'm wrong, Lise.
No, don't go there.
Don't.
Just don't go.
Oh, okay.
It's really-
Oh, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on.
Pause and recording.
Back to record.
Recording again, Lise. Oh. Sorry, everyone. Sorry, people on the recording. That you couldn't hear that. My mother-in-law hates me though. Anyway. Is there anything you want to share?
Mine's gone a bit blank.
We call it anything.
Unless there's any questions
Yeah.
people would like.
That was interesting what you said about Groundhog Day.
All right.
And I guess it's like Groundhog Day thinking. You know, I guess when those thoughts get those habitual ones, might it be helpful to just go, yeah, Groundhog Day thinking?
You can become aware. You know, you can become aware. All Buddha spoke about was awareness. Buddha spoke about awareness over and over again, many different angles. And it seems to me as you become aware, you have more options. But it seems to me like the more I become aware, the less. I was talking to Crystal about this today, walking through a wood. You know, the more I feel you become aware, the less you fight. The more the more accepting you become of life. The more accepting you become of your spouse's weirdness. The more accepting you become of your own. You know, the more accepting you become of everyday life, the more accepting you become of your own bonkers, illegal, immoral thinking, that drives you just think makes you unique and a totally different I'm unique because I think like this, I think like that. Of course, we're all unique. But it seems to me like we've been taught to fight everything, and everything's a fight in our Western culture. We need to fight this, we need to fight that, we need to fight mental illness, we need to fight cancer, we need to fight. Yeah, let's keep creating war, people. Let's keep creating war. What if we learnt to accept? What if we just learnt to accept? That statement's going to piss a lot of people off. They'll probably want to fight me over it.
But I don't think you're saying to not fight something and to accept doesn't mean you do nothing. You might still take action.
Totally.
So it's two different things. I don't
No,
think
totally.
it's
Yeah.
controversial in that way.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't fight my thoughts anymore. I don't fight my illegal thinking. I don't fight my immoral thinking. I don't fight my thoughts. I won't dare tell you lot.
I really wonder what they are,
I know you
considering
do.
what you do share. Like,
I'm not going to tell you.
I don't think I want to know.
It doesn't matter. That's the thing. It just doesn't matter. It's like their thoughts. Then what? Then what? Really, what is the big deal? Why have we made such a big deal out of it all? Is it really a big deal? Any of it? I don't know. I feel like the more people learn to accept their own thoughts and feelings, they learn to take responsibility for their own life. Which means you won't throw it out onto other people as much. Which means you don't have to tidy up your life as often. Do your apologies, do your groveling, or cut people out because you feel so ashamed about how you've behaved or what you've said. You don't have to tidy up your life or have as much to clean up. I don't know, if people learn to accept that, yeah, we're going to have thoughts that we don't feel are particularly conducive to a great experience, or, you know, we're not always going to have thoughts that are wonderful, you know. But it seems like the more we learn to live in acceptance, the more we have say over what thought we're actually going to give attention to. You know, like now when I have these insane thoughts coming in, sometimes I'm just like Crystal's describing, once I've seen it for what it is, first you really have to see it for what it is. It means nothing until it's realized as the truth, as Crystal was saying. But how do you realize it's the truth? You can't do it whilst you're trying. You can't see it whilst you're trying. Your consciousness is engaged with some other discipline. It's engaged with its intellect. That's where your consciousness is. But when in that moment of just sitting quietly, in my moment of just standing on the side of a hillside, minding my own bloody business, sitting quietly, minding her own business, going to a thing I don't know what the hell this is about, sitting quietly and just listening, there's these realizations that take place. And all of a sudden it becomes so simple. Shit, this describes the whole of life from birth till death. None of us are special. Yet we're all the most magnificent, inexplicable, magical events. But none of us are more special than anybody else. None of us are worse than anybody else. Everything's equal. The ocean is water, full stop.
I was going to say, I heard you misquote earlier.
Go on.
And I don't know enough about it. And I know Joe's going to be watching and catch up. But you were saying, I watched a documentary called One Giant Leap. And there's a part in it where it says, and they have like this little model of Buddha sitting under the tree saying he meditated and meditated and meditated. And it's when he gave up that he gained enlightenment. That's where I've got it from. I'm no authority on Buddha or Buddhism.
Is that where you're from?
Yeah, I've told you that many times.
Cartoon.
Well, I mean, they did their research. There was a film about looking towards spiritual nature. But yeah, don't quote me on that because I have no idea.
Oh, sorry.
But that's what they said in that documentary.
No.
But Joe, I know you watch this in catch up, so you can tell us.
Yeah, and in all fairness, it fitted really well with what I wanted to say.
So you can adapt things.
I'm going to stick with it.
Okay.
I'm going to stick with
Okay,
it.
but just take my name off
Yeah.
of it. So it's what you heard from somewhere.
All right.
Separate reality.
What Jen said. Your hair's hovering now, Lise. Oh no. Hello. Look. Little terrorist. I love a Jack Russell terrorist. Should call it a night. Call it a night. Cool. Does anybody want to say anything before we finish?
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for being here, Lise. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm just going to finish off with me. Yeah, if you've enjoyed this, you want to make a donation, please have a look in the description below. The best way for us is PayPal, friends and family, if you could. That's the best way for us. I just want to say, Lise, do you want to say something?
I do it by bank transfer.
Thanks, Lise. Or you can
Is
do
that okay, doing it that way?
Lise, that's
Equally as
perfect.
good, yeah.
Equally as good. Thank you, love. And if
Yeah.
you do want to do it via bank transfer, get in touch with us at info@freedomthinking.co.uk and then we'll send you our bank details. So thank you so much. thank you to everybody who does make donations. We really, really appreciate it. It's going to let Crystal back in. She dropped out. Yeah, if anybody wants to work with Jenny or I, or both of us, we generally do work together as best we can. Get in touch with us, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Our website, you can find out details on our website, freedomthinking.co.uk. You can find all our services on there. Meg's just arrived. Meg the dog, Crystal's dog. Crystal, just want to say a massive thank you to you for tonight. I know that I can imagine how your heart rate was beating. Yeah. But Crystal, thank you so much for what you shared. I loved it.
I think the camera, my phone was moving because I was shaking.
Oh, love it. It was beautiful and it was honest. It was real. That's what we want. We want real. So thank you so much, love. All right, next Monday.
Yep.
Yep. Next Monday, back on 7 o'clock UK time. Be there. God bless everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Love you all.
Bye.
Love you
Bye.
too.
Thank you.
15.